you have to earn more than you spend. China is becoming an effective place to invest money. What is the goal? What is the dream? We can make wonderful things happen. For every individual, for every company, for every government, over a period of time, you have to earn more than you spend, and you have a balance sheet. There's an income statement and a balance sheet. When one becomes a reserve currency, others want to save in that, and that gives one the exorbitant privilege of being able to borrow in that and to create debt and money, because that's the thing. And it also gives us powers, like a lot of our sanctions come from the dollars being a reserve currency and so on. However, through history, it has always happened that currencies are devalued or destroyed. And in that cycle, when it becomes unattractive to own bonds or debt instruments in that currency, there's a supply-demand problem, because a bond is a promise to receive currency. So what you are is, when you own a bond, you're long a lot of currency because that's what they promise to give you, and they have the printing press. And then there are shifts that happen. Who is accounting for world trade? Right now, China accounts a larger share of world trade than the United States, for example. So what we are doing is we are in a fiat monetary system in which we are running very large deficits that we are monetizing, and that those deficits produce bonds that have to be sold. When I look at the supply and demand for those bonds, there's not going to be enough demand for those bonds, and there's going to be a need for more monetization of that debt. And so the answer is yes, we're producing a change in the storehold of wealth. And you've seen it in the markets, because when there was that stimulation and the buying, what the Federal Reserve did in terms of buying that assets, there was not only the decline in real interest rates. We had, about 150 basis points decline in real rates, and nominal rates down there. So the discount rate was lower. You also had a lot of liquidity which came in, and the world now has an enormous amount of liquidity bidding for financial assets. And so if you increase the supply of bonds and you increase the amount of money, bonds are going to be worth less relative to other things, and you're seeing a shift in the storehold of wealth. And like the 1933 period, when Roosevelt did the same moves in 1933, you then saw assets rise because there are alternative storeholds of wealth. That's what we saw in terms of the liquidity move that we've had in the market, also included in gold and so on. And so that's how it looks to me in terms of the comparison. And certainly, we're now in a new era. We're in a new era. So it is, anyway, the answer is we are pressing the limits of that. And that money, at the end of the day, whoever's accepting that reserve currency's got to believe in it. And there are things that are going on in terms of how we're handling COVID. And also, let's just think about capital flows. China is becoming an effective place to invest money. Something like 40%, over 40% of the IPOs are going to be Chinese stocks on Chinese markets and so on. And capital flows work that way. And history has shown us that when there's an empire, an emerging empire, they build the financial markets, they build the financial system. So all of that changes the supply and the demand that is threatening to the reserve currency status. What is the goal? What is the dream? And is our system achieving that dream? And then you could have metrics to say, are you achieving that goal? And you hold yourself accountable to the metrics, and you have togetherness in facing that goal. If you look out through history, everybody's gone through these transitions in various ways, and then the adaptability and the inventiveness that humans have is a fabulous asset. And sometimes these conflicts, maybe, they can come and go. So the test, as I mentioned, is can we rise to that higher level? That'll be our test. But the capacity. We have a lot of resources. The world has never been more inventive and producing things more efficiently. And it has a tremendous capacity with technology and so on to learn and produce breakthroughs and so on, so that it can be fabulous, and we will adapt. The only question is what we do in the intervening period, if we're going to fight or whether we can adapt. So I think we can do that. And the reason I'm trying to communicate openly about these things is I think if we all agree on what it would be, the things like we don't want that one, and we really do want this, and we want to cooperate, we have the capacity to do that. It's in our hands. In a democracy, in a situation, if we behave properly and so on, we can make wonderful things happen.